Happy New Year, ladies and gentlemen. Mike Davis here in the den at Fox 5 Studios for SOS. We got a great show for you today. A lot of football, from the college football playoff to who's going to win the Super Bowl. We want to hear from you. SOS starts right now.
Make some noise. This is Sound Off Sports, sponsored by Sam and Ash.
Hey, Mike, it's Jason from Seven Hills. I'm thinking about the Super Bowl winner being the Buffalo Bills, but they're going to play your Philadelphia Eagles, and I just want the Eagles to lose, not because I like or don't like them, but it's always more fun when you're miserable. It just makes for a better show. So I'm going with the Bills over the Eagles. So I guess don't go Birds.
Hello and welcome to Sound Off Sports. Happy New Year. Happy to be back here in the den with my main man, producer James Edward Barrickman. The fourth, James, it's playoff football time. We got the college football playoffs going. We got the NFL playoffs going. Wild card week, a lot of excitement going on. We asked everybody at home who they think, who was their pick to win the Super Bowl. I want to know right off the bat, James, what has changed for you? What are you feeling? I know you have your hometown Steelers in the mix. I got my Birds in the mix. Where are you leaning? Who's your AFC team? Who's your NFC team?
So just going through it, as much as I would love for Pittsburgh to make a run here, I don't think anybody thinks that is a realistic option. I think the most realistic scenario is we're getting 2 1 seeds in the Super Bowl, Kansas City versus Detroit. Now, looking at this NFC side, Detroit, they are gonna have to take down Philly. Assuming Jalen Hurts is healthy, I think he'll be back for Wild Card Weekend.
He's been thrown at practice today. Yeah. They practiced at the LIX, so they got that going on.
The only thing I'll say about Philly, because I do think Philly is a great team with the best roster in the playoffs, if they were to go to Detroit and upset the Lions, that wouldn't surprise me one bit, just looking at the roster and the way that they have just bullied and mauled every single team they played this year.
I was a big Lions guy from the get-go. They were my pick when we started this show off in September with all the predictions. But at this point, I am on the belief train for the Philadelphia Eagles. I just think they're trending in the right direction right now. The way they played the past couple weeks without having Jalen Hurts and still looking like a team that could win a playoff game or two.
Who are those two squads?
I know, but still, it was impressive to me.
No question. Who was it? The Cowboys and somebody
the Giants.
Else. Right, yeah.
So I'm getting choked up even, literally, about how beautiful this team is constructed by Howie Roseman. They can beat you throwing the ball. They can beat you running the ball. They got a great defense. I think they're going to beat the Lions. That's my prediction now. I think they're going to take over if they can run the ball with Saquon, throw the ball, and play. The defense is the determining factor for them.
It's by far the best defense in the league.
Because I don't believe Aaron Glenn is going to call up that same game that they did against the Vikings each and every week. They can score, we know that,
let's not put
but
the
can
Eagles
they stop
offense,
people?
Right, let's not put the Eagles offense in the same category as the Vikings offense either.
No.
I think for Detroit, getting that 1 seed was incredibly important. I think they've played, 13 games in a row? Their bye was like week 5 or something like that. So getting this bye was massive for Detroit. And again, I would not be surprised if Philly, given all of the injuries in Detroit's defensive end, if they went in there and beat them. Yeah. But you got to think about what is an NFC championship game in Detroit going to look like. That place is going to be absolutely
electric. The two big factors to discuss there, too, Montgomery out, so
he's supposed to be back for the divisional round.
You think?
Yeah, he's supposed to be back for the divisional round. I read that today.
Okay. He's
maybe not 100% healthy, but available.
Okay. Hutchinson's making a move. He's trying to trend for that Super Bowl as well. So they're definitely more banged up than Philly is at this point. So there's something interesting there. Me, on the AFC side, I think I'm in love with this Josh Allen Bills team. I just think this could be the year for them. I really do.
I'm rooting for it. And this is another thing I wanted to say is I have my Super Bowl that I think we're going to get in Kansas City and Detroit, and the Super Bowl that I am rooting for, and that is Detroit versus Buffalo. Could you imagine those two tortured fan bases with the squads they have right now, those two, Josh Allen versus Jared Goff and that offense, what that kind of Super Bowl would look like? It would be It would be incredible. It would be incredible.
It'd be exciting to see. I think Josh Allen's the MVP of the league this year. Joe Brady, what he's done in Buffalo, tremendous. Sean McDermott and this defense. I mean, the team has taken on the identity of a playoff football team, finally. I think for years we're begging and hoping and wishing for Buffalo to lean in to the type of player Josh Allen should be. He's limited those incompletions. He's limited turnovers. He's limited interceptions. And now he's, I think, in my opinion, the MVP of the league. So we'll see what happens there. But my thing is Eagles-Bills. It's what I want to happen, and it's what I think is going to happen.
I just don't think Buffalo is going to be able to get by Kansas City. Kansas City, they've just been professional game winners all year long.
There we go, guys. We got a clock now. It's like a 2-minute drill here on SOS now. We're going to head to break. When we come back, we got a great interview with Tamir Goodman.
Hey, Mike. It's other Mike in Green Valley. Look, love your Eagles this year, but I don't think anybody's beating the Lions. I don't care how beat up their defense is, how many dudes they got on IR. I think the playoffs on the NFC side, literally and figuratively, go through Detroit. I'm taking the Lions to come out of there. And you know what lake they're on? Well, technically not Lake Erie, but they're right next to it. You know who's on the other end of Lake Erie? The Buffalo Bills. The Super Bowl is going to be a battle for Lake Erie. Lions, Bills, down in New Orleans.
He's known as the Jewish Jordan. He was a hero of mine growing up. I can't wait for you to hear a piece of this conversation from the great Tamir Goodman. I am joined right now by one of my heroes, a childhood hero of mine. I was, a short Jewish boy growing up in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. I wanted to be like Allen Iverson. Of course, I wanted to be like Kobe Bryant, but I also wanted to be like the Jewish Jordan. Tamir Goodman, a guy who's a legend amongst all Jewish families, basketball, folklore. This guy is a legendary figure when it comes to basketball. We're so pleased to be joined by Tamir Goodman right now. He's got a brand new children's book coming out called Live Your Dream, the story of a Jewish basketball all-star. Tamir Goodman comes to us right now from Israel. Tamir, thanks so much for being with us. It's an honor to speak with you.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a great pleasure and honor to be on the show.
So let's set the stage about a little bit of your life before we get into this book, because you're such an inspiration to so many people. When you're a junior, you're one of the top-ranked high school players around the nation. You're averaging about 35 points per game. You're in Baltimore. You're the 25th ranked player from a high school perspective across the nation. You're a prolific figure. And what ends up happening is you're getting recruited. All this great stuff is happening. The University of Maryland is trying to come at you. And we got to remember back in those days, Juan Dixon, all those teams. I mean, University of Maryland, these were prolific teams, a prolific program when it came to college basketball. But your Judaism, your faith, you're raised in an Orthodox Jewish family, and it prevented you from playing, like we know from guys like Sandy Koufax and all these types of guys. You wouldn't play Friday nights and Saturdays with, your faith and observing the Sabbath and Shabbat. So it's a fascinating story. You're dubbed the Jewish Jordan from Sports Illustrated in 1999, and you go on to have this tremendous career. We're going to break down all these things, but when you're reflecting back and you're thinking, you have a son now who's a 6'3" point guard who's doing a lot of good stuff. When you reflect back and you think about your Judaism, your faith, do you feel sometimes like, man, I should have maybe gave a little bit in certain directions just so I could have seen the full potential of what I could have put on display?
That's a really great question. I actually feel the opposite. I feel like my Judaism gave me purpose. It gave me guidance. It gave me clarity. It gave me inspiration. It taught me how to handle the really great times and also how to handle the really challenging times, and always guided me in a more meaningful and happy way. So I don't think that Judaism got in the way of basketball. I feel like Judaism helped me with basketball and what my intention should be when I'm on the court, when I'm off the court, and very thankful for my heritage. And I also was fortunate enough to grow up around my hero. My grandmother was a Holocaust survivor, and just having her in the house was always just made the Judaism so real and alive, and always seen as like a blessing and not something that was preventing me from anything.
It's a fascinating thing. You end up going to Towson, right in your own backyard. And, eventually you go on to play for Maccabi Tel Aviv, David Blatt, who we all know coached the Cavs with LeBron. But this is how good you were. A Capital Classic All-Star game. You won the MVP of that. This is an award that Shaq and LeBron won. So do you even, now you're a parent, you understand things. Does it even register just how good you were? How did you become such a tremendous basketball player? I'm so curious the effort, the hard work you put in to get to this degree of professionalism at such a young age.
Well, first, I fell in love with the game. It starts with falling in love with the game. And then, thank God I was surrounded in the perfect scenario. My parents were very supportive of me. My coach who raised me, I think he believed in me more than I believed in myself. And a lot of times when you surround yourself around people that really believe in you, great things could happen. A lot of prayer and a lot of hard work and a lot of challenges and setbacks and overcoming and resilience and a lot of blessing from above. And, I think that basketball, they say basketball is 90% confidence and, mental confidence and 10% physical. And I think I got my confidence in knowing that I was very dyslexic off the court, but on the court, the dyslexia just gave me a certain type of vision, a certain type of intuition on the court. I just felt like I could get my teammates the ball, even if they knew they weren't open. So going on the court, I think I just got a certain type of confidence in being that, like, I knew my dyslexia was going to allow me to see things that other people weren't seeing. And that's what gave me my confidence on the court and I guess helped me along the way. And, I won that MVP at the Capital Classic because of assists, not because of scoring points.
There's so many fascinating elements to this, but a real quick question. So with this dyslexia, which is fascinating with Live Your Dream in this new book that you have coming out, a children's book that has great illustrations and a great story and a great message, but even reading Torah and all your Torah study, navigating that. So beyond reading a book or in class for English traditional school work, how was that reading Torah and all that stuff for you?
Correct. When you grow up the way that I grew up, it's two languages.
There you have it. You heard it there. Tamir Goodman, a.k.a. the Jewish Jordan. To hear the full conversation, go to our YouTube page, Silver State Sports and Entertainment.
The whole college football system is broken. The playoff has some unfairness, but let's call it what it is. The teams that did not have to play in conference championships had a little bit of an advantage. So that's why you have Notre Dame and Penn State and Ohio State in the semifinals, and why Texas had a tough test in the quarterfinal. Oh, by the way, shout out to Arizona State for playing their butts off and almost beating them, and they should have beat them. They need to get rid of the conference championship model. I know it's what happens across all sports, but for FBS college football, get rid of it. Give us the 12 best teams, including regular season champs, to play in this playoff and go from there. Furthermore, let's expand this playoff to 16 teams. 6 conference champions, you pick the 6 conferences, and 10 wild cards. No buys, just straight Saturday after Saturday after Saturday of games, or Friday or Thursday night, because the NFL is king around here. That's how you determine a champion.
Welcome back to Sound Off Sports. 4 teams remain in the college football playoff. It's the first time we got this excitement of 12 teams in the college football playoff. We got Notre Dame and Penn State and Ohio State and Texas. James, we asked everybody at home, would you change the format of the college football playoff? I think a lot of people like me, I know you're a major college football fan. I'm more so plugged into the NFL, but this has been the most exciting year of college football in my lifetime, just because I just love making making the college football playoffs a little bit of that March Madness spark and that magic.
I think part of why people feel that way, like this was the most exciting year of college football ever, is because a lot of the smaller programs, the Arizona States, the SMUs, the Boise States, it felt like finally they had a chance to even make the playoff. Like when it was 4 teams, it wasn't really realistic for teams like that to have a shot at it. So I am really glad about the 12-team playoff being here. I just think we need to change the formatting of it and how teams are seeded.
So tell us about how that would work, because right now for the Orange Bowl, we got 2 semifinals. For the Orange Bowl, we got Notre Dame and Penn State. That's a 5 and a 4 seed. And then in the Cotton Bowl, you got Ohio State, a 6 seed, facing off against Texas, a 3 seed. So tell us how you would change up the seeding situation. What would be your imprint that you would make to change this up?
First off, if it were me, there would be no automatic bids for anybody. It doesn't matter what conference you win. I don't think there should be automatic bids at all. But since that's kind of the direction we're going, I think if you're going to give automatic bids to some of these conference champs, then they need to be seated in the bracket how they are ranked in the college football playoff rankings. So going forward, we don't have an Arizona State getting the 3 seed when they're the 17th ranked team in the country or whatever, or a Boise State getting the 4th seed when they're ranked how high. That being said, if it were up to me, this is what it would have looked like. You would have had Oregon still would have got the 1 seed. Georgia still would have got the 2 seed. But instead of Arizona State at 3, you would have had Texas. Instead of Boise State at 4, you would have had Penn State. Notre Dame would have hosted Clemson in the 5-12 game. Ohio State would have hosted Arizona State in the 6-11 game. Tennessee would have hosted SMU in the 7-10 game. And then we would have had Boise State at Indiana in the 8-9 game. That's how I would have set it up. And I think a lot of people would agree with me that this is what it should have looked like.
I think the format is correct. The seeding is wrong.
Right.
And I think that's a simple fix. You just go by or abide by the college football top 25 rankings.
100%.
And that's how you just kind of do that from an AP standpoint. I think our dude, who you and I both love, Colin Coward, had a great point that he was saying is that, listen, a lot of these smaller programs, we thought this was going to, benefit them. But the truth is this is way more competitive than ever, college football landscape, because what happens now is you have to repeat 2, 3, 4 wins to get to that.
You can't just knock off Michigan one time and hey,
exactly.
Great, we're in the Natty. That's not how this.
So I mean, these teams, it's really going to be built on depth and having a lot of players coming off the bench, having strong trenches, all those types of things. You can't just have a solid team. You really got to have a lot of help all around. And these are programs that you look at them, Ohio State, Texas, Notre Dame, Penn State. I mean, these are blue bloods. These are organizations. This is a major program. This is not just like SMU sneaking their way in.
Yeah, and the thing that I will say that I feel like what Colin's saying is a little bit short-sighted in that Cinderella's dead almost. I think that in the era of NIL, it's not going to be, these programs aren't necessarily Cinderella anymore. SMU, there's a lot of money there. Arizona State, there's a lot of money there. And now in the era of NIL, where we can pay these players, it's not just the SEC and the Big Ten anymore. These players that were sitting behind some of these, first-round picks at LSU, at Ohio State, they don't want to sit and wait there anymore. They want to go to these other schools and start right away. And I think that's why you'll see, as time goes on, Arizona State and SMU, those kind of schools will have a little bit more of a shot.
I can't wait to see it. I'm excited. That Arizona State-Texas game, I mean, holy cow, one of the greatest.
That was awesome.
That was one of the best games I've ever seen in my entire life. So we want to hear from you. Excitement about the college football landscape and all that kind of stuff, but let's definitely hear from you guys on what you think about a reset or a reframing of what the college football seeding process could look like. We'll be right back to SOS after a short break.
Hey, Mike. It's other Mike down in Green Valley. Look, this is a fun college football playoff. Do you know why? Because the SEC is not dominating. Everyone knew this was going to happen. You saw the cracks. SEC got the benefit of the doubt with the BCS and the 14 playoff. Now they're being exposed. They got to play the best teams in the other parts of the country. Ohio State is beating Texas, and Penn State is going to beat Notre Dame. There's a new bully in town It's not the SEC. It's the Big Ten. I want to say Penn State's beating Ohio State. I don't think that's happening. OSU has the best roster that literally money can buy. OSU over Penn State in the championship game.
Welcome back, guys. We are talking sink or swim right now. And, of course, we got to talk about the Raiders and the firing of head coach Antonio Pierce. James, Monday came around. He was sporting that new starter jacket. Nobody thought.
They let him do the press conference?
He does a press conference. Everybody's like, oh, I guess he's staying. And then on Tuesday, the judgment happens, and he's relieved of his duties. He's fired. So a couple questions for you. First off, was this the right move? And
absolutely was the right move.
Absolutely right move. Now what do they do? Because there's a lot of teams out there looking for head coaches. Is this an attractive job to a lot of potential head coaches? I don't know if a Ben Johnson, the belle of the ball, the guy who's got all the options, everything on the table, we know he's taken an interview, but is this a compelling job for guys of that stature?
A guy like Ben Johnson, I feel like you need to have things going in the right direction already, like Chicago.
A quarterback.
You have a Caleb Williams, right. And when I say something in the right direction, I mean you got to have a quarterback. And a Drake May in New England, I think those jobs are more attractive to a guy like Ben Johnson. What the Raiders need is a total mop-up job. You need somebody to just come in and get this thing back on the tracks, heading in the right direction. A Belichick, a Vrabel, somebody who can come in here and establish a culture, because this is a total mess right now.
I can't wait to see what happens. We're going to have to see, is Dion a possibility? Is Belichick a possibility? Is Vrabel a possibility? You have no clue, really, of what could happen with now Tom Brady in the fold, having, a limited partner interest. We can see what will happen there, but we're waiting patiently to see what happens with the Raiders. We'll see you next time here in the Den at SOS.